Yama. My name is Marley Silver. I'm a proud Aboriginal woman from the Gamilaroi and Dunghutti tribes of New South Wales. On behalf of the Imperfects podcast, I'd like to acknowledge the Wurundjeri people of the country on which this podcast is created, and in this, honour the ways in which their elders, past and present, have cared for and nurtured their lands and waterways for millennia. I extend this acknowledgement to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people connected to each of the hundreds of countries that make up the continent of so-called Australia, and any of my brothers and sisters listening to this episode. I pay my respects to our leaders and knowledge keepers past and present. I find strength in our survival for over 60,000 years and acknowledge that sovereignty was never ceded. Always was, always will be.
We're all imperfect, and on this podcast, I'll be chatting with a variety of interesting people who are willing to make themselves vulnerable by sharing their own struggles and imperfections.
Then we'll discuss the invaluable takeaways we can all apply to our own imperfect lives.
I'm Hugh Van Kylenberg from the Resilience Project.
And I'm Ryan Shelton from My Mum.
And I'm Josh from Hugh's mum.
And this is The Imperfects.
That was Keep On by No Mono.
Yeah. Yeah, it was Keep On by No Mono.
A lot of people ask about the song, so there you go.
Yeah, no, it is good because it's a great song, isn't it?
Beautiful song.
Really, we're very lucky to be able to use that.
We are.
So thanks to No Mono for allowing us to pay them to use it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. How are you guys? Good?
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Good.
Excellent.
Feeling good.
Yeah. God, let's just. Oh, God, the weather today was good, wasn't it? There's that sun finally. Bit of small talk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I start with one?
Please,
Okay.
someone do something. Because rarely in any sort of team do you start getting worse after 50 or so shows.
Yeah.
You'd think we'd start getting better. I mean, the start, as we know, it's a flaw. It's an imperfection of the imperfects.
The most imperfect part of our is our starts and our finishes. But let me hopefully try and pick it up here with a quick story for you.
No pressure.
So as I think you both know, I was in the Gold Coast on Monday doing the Monday night. I had my show on the Gold Coast, and when I was driving out with my tour manager to the hotel, he said, "I've looked after you at the hotel after what happened last time." And I said, "What happened last time?" And he said, "A year ago in the Gold Coast, and I booked you in a hotel that was right next to a pub that had Wolf Mother playing, and so I didn't get any sleep because Wolf Mother played, actually Wolf Mother, not like a cover band." I was like, "God, this cover band!" I remember lying there going, "This cover band is so annoying, but they're very good at Wolf Mother."
Very
and
tight.
Then I found out it was actually Wolf Mother. And apparently I said to Tom, my tour manager, after that, I said, "You owe me next time we're in Gold Coast. You owe me a better hotel." And he said, "I haven't forgotten that. I've looked after you, and we're staying somewhere very nice." And we're staying at Versace, which as we drove towards, I was like, "No, this is going to be just like this tacky, like 1990s." Just it was very 90s, but it was awesome. Like I've rarely stayed at a place like this before.
God, that gem stuff's doing well, isn't it? God, Versace.
Anyway.
Few journals being sent out. Very impressive.
So anyway, I was in awe of this place and just loving it, and the show went really well. Came back to the hotel. I ordered like spaghetti bolognese before the show. I'm having spaghetti marinara after it. I'm like, this is just. Actually, we'll take that bit out. I don't need to add that bit.
No, you absolutely keep it in because it just shows how close you are to Kevin McAllister from Home Alone. It's just like, you remember Home Alone 2 when he goes and stays in the plaza in New York? His idea of luxury is your idea of luxury. Room service, as much Coke as I want, spaghetti bolognese.
It was a bit like that. So, great night, early night, go the best gym I've ever seen in a hotel in the morning. I'm like, this is just great. Had an hour in the gym. Breakfast, amazing buffet. Classical music playing, and which always
fresh omelettes, omelette chef.
Yeah, they had one of those guys. Yeah,
right. Okay, now we're talking.
I mean, they had everything. They had a guy purely just doing eggs Benedict, like just
Just Eggs Benedict.
Yeah, he was
so
an
you
Eggs
could go
Benedict.
to him, can I have scrambled eggs? And be like, nah, piss off, mate. I'm the
Pretty much.
Benedict guy. Go speak to Simon. He does scrambled.
And so I had about an hour till he left, and Tom was sitting with me. I said, I haven't been in the pool yet. The pool stretches like the length of the hotel. It's beautiful, like white sand at one end to replicate a beach, and just amazing. It was just so good. So I went out there, and I'm looking up, and the hotel wraps around it. So everyone's on their balconies looking down on this like little. There was no one else in the pool. I thought, that's fine. I don't really care. I'll go for a swim.
What do you mean?
And, well, it's just.
Well, you thought you were a bit worried about going in the pool because no one else was in the pool.
No, I was just thinking like, because I was a little bit self-conscious. Like it was 8:30 in the morning and no one else is in the pool and everyone's on their balcony like looking down. So everyone will be watching me.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, it doesn't matter. I'll jump in the pool. I was about to get in and went, and I went around the corner. I was like, there's another pool here. What is this place? It was like, it looked like to me like an infinity pool. And I went, I love an infinity pool. I'll go in that. Looked across the river behind the Gold Coast and I was like, they're definitely going in here. Had fountains in it. Like this huge fountain in the middle. It was just incredible. Anyway,
so far we're minutes into you just talking about how great the Versace hotel is on the Imperfects.
It was like an ad for this. It's like a long ad.
Yeah.
And I went, this is just. So I get my kid off and I'm just in my shorts. People watching me. And I just get into this like amazing other pool that I've found with a fountain.
Second pool.
It's like the most quintessential relaxing. I'm like floating on my back. I'm almost like spitting water out my mouth, like I'm a fountain into
again, Kevin McAllister, Home Alone,
pretty much. Anyway,
Culkin.
And so I'm doing that, and I noticed this staff member was just standing there watching me with his hands behind his back, almost like he was like going to take my order, like it was a waiter, and he just kind of followed me. And I was like, I don't want anything. I don't want to be bothered talking to this guy. So I just sort of tried to float in the other direction, and he walked around and met me at the other side of the pool where I floated to. And I went, "G'day, mate," and he goes, sir, just to let you know, you are swimming in our pond.
Yeah.
I was in the pond.
Mate, I'm paying good money to be here. I'll swim wherever I bloody want. I'm Hugh Van bloody Kylenberg. Gem, look it up. Do you want a journal?
I was floating in the pond. It was so obviously the pond when I looked at it when I got out. It was fucking freezing compared to the pool. It was absolutely freezing. It was like, it wasn't clean water.
No, it was pond water, yeah.
It was pond water. I was in there for like 10 minutes, like spitting the water out of my mouth, like everyone's watching, just going, that man is floating in the pond.
But I feel like that's the hotel to do it. Like there's something that I think the guests who would stay at the Versace hotel would just do whatever they want.
It was the most amazingly kind delivery of like,
yeah,
so polite. He goes, sir, just to let you know, you are swimming in our pond.
Which is made up of Gianni Versace's piss. So you are swimming in a pool of, we import his piss every year, and we ask you to please leave it is sacred for us here at the Gold Coast.
There were seagulls swimming, and I realised it was like anyway, as I got out, there was a massive sign on this pillar, this huge, opulent, like Greek sort of pillar that just said, "Please do not walk through our pond." I was like, it was so obviously a pond, and there I was doing a backstroke in the pond.
Oh, yeah.
With the Versace. But anyway.
You will not be invited back. But you will go back and pay good money to be there.
It's a pretty impressive place.
Yeah. Versace.
He might be invited. He just did a 6-minute ad for them.
Oh, yeah. True. We all better be bloody invited.
Yeah.
I sort of checked that the ad for this episode isn't the Hyatt or
Oh, yeah. I suspect it won't be. But yeah, I mean, it actually would be an interesting experiment for us all to go and stay at the Versace hotel for free. That'd be fascinating, wouldn't it?
We could talk more about it.
Oh, I'd be really interested to see what that's like. Even though I've just, I've obviously, well, we've had some jokes, but in all seriousness, why not? That'd be fun. Anyway, we'll see what happens. Let's get to today's episode, today's interview.
Yeah.
Not really much needs to be said, except before you mentioned Harry Garside to me, Hugh, to be honest, I'd never heard of Harry Garside, shamefully, because I'm now, I don't want to say genuinely in love with him because that's probably a bit much, but it's close.
Yeah.
It's pretty close. He's a boxer, Australian champion boxer, bronze medalist at the last Olympic Games.
Commonwealth gold medalist,
as we learn in the chat. I mean, I don't want to. We don't want to build him up too much, but I feel like the most incredible thing is that he's 24 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a similar, when you say that you genuinely in love with him, I had this weird thought of, while we're chatting, him going, I'd love to be this guy's girlfriend. That's what I was thinking.
I know. I mean, but like, imagine meeting him.
Oh,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm like, this can't be real. You can't be like this.
Yeah.
And he is.
Yeah.
Like when I was 24,
Oh.
like my greatest achievement was getting a McChicken meal with 6 nuggets and finishing the whole thing and putting all of the rubbish into the Coke cup, fitting it all into there and throwing just the cup out with all the rubbish in. That was big for me at 24. This guy, well, he's unbelievable.
Did you think we followed him out of the building too closely?
Oh, it was, he walked off on us. He walked
Yeah,
off.
because you left with him, which usually I don't want to crowd the guests when they leave, so I just kind of stay back here and fix gear. And you guys, if you've got, either of you usually have a strong connection with them, so you guys say goodbye. But it was just the two of us. I didn't really say goodbye, and you guys walked off, and I thought, I need to say goodbye. So I followed you to the front, but then I was stuck in the little alcove bit at the building. I couldn't get round you. So my head was just sitting on your shoulder while you guys were chatting.
Swooning.
Yeah, and then I had to make a big deal of it so I didn't look like, I thought, I have to say something so I'm not just a head on your shoulders. So then I came out and nearly tripped to get around you. And then he was waiting for his girlfriend, but his girlfriend wasn't there yet. And so then he just had to, go, all right, see you guys.
Yeah, he goes, see you guys. And he walked off. He's just like, these guys are not going to leave me alone here.
Yeah, we've had enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Do we? Yeah, I thought we might have cooked it. I thought we might be friends during that, but I feel like we might have cooked the goodbye.
he said, I think he likes us. He sent me a nice message last night.
He seems like a pretty forgiving,
Yeah,
That's true.
pretty forgiving guy.
Yeah.
Well, let's. I don't think there's anything else we really need to say. Hugh.
This is the original format where Josh and I do an interview with the person, and then we chat with Ryan afterwards about what we learned. But he, as you will see, or as you're about to hear, he is everything. He does a bit of a vulnerability.
He is
himself.
everything. Wow.
He also does an academy. he also does. It's a bit academy style. We learnt so much from him. So it's kind of all episodes into one, but we'll follow the standard format. We'll chat afterwards about some stuff we can take away from it. And there is so much to take away from this one.
Yep.
We really hope you enjoy listening to Harry Garside. Josh and I are giddy with excitement. We are joined by, now I always read the bio and I often stuff it up. I don't need to read this one. It's simple and it's just great. We are joined by plumber, ballet dancer and Olympic medal winning boxer, Harry Garside. Harry, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thank you. I'm absolutely honoured to be here. As I was saying to you before the podcast, I've been a fan pretty much since the start of the podcast, so stoked to be a guest.
Oh, well, this is how, I don't know if I've told you this, Josh, this is how this interview kind of came about. So I was stuck on Instagram the other night in just a complete rabbit hole, and I don't know what I was looking at, but all of a sudden so I saw two things. First of all, there was an interview with a boxer, and Josh and I don't really follow boxing that much, so I was like, oh, okay. And the interview, you were saying, so it was you, obviously.
Gave away the punchline.
and you were saying, I wanted to wear a dress to the opening ceremony. I really wanted to try and buck stereotypes. They didn't want me wearing a dress, so I painted my fingernails instead. I was like, oh, that's I've never heard a boxer talk like that before. That's pretty cool. And so I then clicked on I think you were tagged in a comment, and I looked at your Instagram, and there was like the first video I went to was like a pre-fight interview, and the guy you were fighting was talking. You know, like for people who don't really watch boxing, I guess a bit like me, but before the fight, they interview both, and it's pretty standard for both the boxers to just basically say they're going to kill the other person. And this other guy was saying like, yeah, I'm going to smash him. I predict I'll knock him out in the second round. He's got nothing on me. I'll smash him. I'm going to kill him. And he went on for ages. And then they said, Harry, what do you say to that? And then you said, I have so much respect for him. All that stuff might happen. Yeah, he's really good. He's such a great boxer. I love what he stands for. I love him. He's just so great. And I just feel honoured. I'm just grateful to be fighting him, you know. And I was like, well, who is this person? And so I was looking more at Instagram stuff. I was like, this guy's just unbelievable. And I'm thinking, this whole podcast started because we feel like people, you know, what you see on the outside is not quite, it's never the whole story. And I thought a boxer who wants to wear a dress to the opening ceremony to break stereotypes, a boxer who talks about how grateful he is for his opponent, this is like our podcast. So I went to send you a message. I was like, I'll send him a DM. This is a bit weird, but I'm going to go for it. And I went to send you a message. I load up to message you, and you'd already sent me a message from a little while back as well. And it said, "Hey mate, love the podcast. If you ever want to chat, just let me know." And I nearly fell off my chair. I couldn't believe it. I was so excited. So I've sort of given away a bit of why we wanted you to be here and kind of the person you are. So I want to get to, by the end of this interview, I'd love to get to the person who says, "Oh, I want to wear a dress to the opening ceremony," and who loves his opponent, doesn't talk about smashing his face in. So that's what I want to get to. But I'd just love to go back in time to your childhood to find out, how did you become this stunning man?
Thank you.
How did you become this wonderful, wonderful man who I've spent so much time just looking at on Instagram now and just in awe of? Like, you're 24 years old. The stuff that you say, I discovered when I was 40. I'm in awe of you. So we want to find out how you became this amazing man. Is that okay if we do it that way?
Absolutely. I love that. I think for me, obviously, anyone growing up has negative and positive role models. And I was really grateful. I definitely had a lot more positives than I did negative. And although, of course, there was negative in any childhood, for me, my parents are two beautiful people. And I think my mum is a medium. She's spiritual. She talks to dead people and always had tarot cards, crystals, very hooly-dooly sort of stuff growing up. And my dad's a roof tiler. He's been roof tiling since he was 14, hardworking Aussie bloke, and drinks beers most nights and just like a stereotypical, I guess, Aussie bloke.
Yeah.
And I think they complement each other because they're almost polar opposites. And I love that about them. I think seeing that so early, I saw that the world wasn't all that it's supposed to be. Everyone is so different, unique, special. And I think I saw that in my parents. And I'm the youngest of three boys. I grew up in a place called Lilydale in Melbourne, end of the train line, beautiful spot of the world. It's not a bad spot. It's a beautiful spot of the world, but everyone there is working class. It's probably more low socioeconomic area. And for me, I just, being the youngest, I felt looking at my brothers, they were like really blokey, really manly, and always out the back playing with dad with power tools and in the shed. And I was like, I felt nothing like them, to be honest. And I entered school at the age of 5, and I just felt like there was a bit of a pressure and a role pushed on me by society and by my teachers. And like, you're a Garside. My brothers are pretty rough around the edges. Like, they're really good people, but they were always playing up and fighting at school, doing what young kids do. And I felt that role was pushed on me, and I played that role for up until the age of 16, 17. Even still now, I still catch myself at moments around certain people in certain environments playing a bit of a role. I'm just a lot more aware of it now, and I can challenge it quicker. But
so were you close to your brothers though? Like, even though you didn't feel like that was you, but you were still very close to them?
Yeah, I think as a young person, you look up to the people around you. I looked to my parents like they were superheroes, and I looked at my brothers like that too. And I think I initially started boxing at the age of 9 to gain respect from them, because I never really got that respect because I felt different. I felt more in touch to my mum's energy.
Yeah, right. So it was it to prove to them or to you at that age, or who knows?
Yeah, it's a bit of both. To be honest. I think I wanted to prove that I was a man. I felt my manhood got questioned a lot, and
because you're connecting with your mum's energy, as you say.
Yeah, I was always like doing what mum was doing, going shopping with mum, or I was a lot softer, softer to my brothers, and I felt like, because they never once said it, but I just felt like I didn't get much respect from my brothers, and of course my dad as well. And I started boxing in a hope to gain respect from them, and I just fell in love with the sport, coincidentally. So,
did your dad ever say anything that, because what our parents say have a big impact on us? Did he ever say anything that made you feel that, or
there's just, I think for me, there was never really like one specific moment. It was just little subtle moments.
Yeah, it
was always like they wouldn't pick me for the jobs that my brothers were more equipped for, like around the house, picking up heavy things or stuff like that. I was always small. I was like the runt of the litter in a sense. And I think you see that it happens so often, you just start to believe that, I'm just not like them, you know what I mean? And I just felt like, in a sense, a little bit inferior to my brothers. So then I overcompensated in other environments to prove that I also was a male.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So at school and then taking up boxing, did you feel when you started boxing, or when you obviously became quite good at it? Well, actually, were you good straight away when you started?
No, I was really bad for a long time. Yeah. I was up until the age of 17. I'd lost more fights than I'd won. It was quite average early on, but it also, and I'm not a stereotypical boxer, and you said that at the start, but I think when you become a boxer, not many people in my area were doing it. I sort of just got a bit of an identity pushed on me, like this tough guy that I was sort of searching for to be like my brothers.
Yeah.
And I sort of got it when I started boxing. Everyone always goes, oh, geez, you're a boxer. You know, and they have these preconceived ideas of what boxers are. I mean, they're tough, they're brazen, and I don't feel like I'm actually any of that on the inside, but I get it.
Amazing.
And it's sort of what I was searching for a long time.
Yeah.
Because if I look at you, like you look extremely fit, first of all. You've got like a really cool hairdo that if I did it, I'd look ridiculous.
God, I'd like to see that hairdo.
You've got like, so if people haven't seen it before, you got tattoos on your right leg. And if someone said he's a boxer, I'd go, oh my God, he is a very manly man. So it's fascinating that was the identity that you sought, but then the whole time you weren't totally identifying with that.
Yeah, and I think the older I get and the more that I think about this world, I just think, yes, of course, there's a need to almost play a bit of a role in some social situations and stuff like that. But I think every human almost in most environments plays some sort of role. And I just think on an individual level, we're all so unique, different, strange, beautiful, crazy. And I think that's the most beautiful thing about being human is that on an individual level, we are all not just one thing, we are many things. And I've felt that within myself. And when I actually talk to people not on a surface level, on a deep level, I understand that everyone else is very similar as well.
So was there a point when you're at school, because school's hard, like when you really desperately want to fit in and there are easier ways to kind of fit in. Was there a point when everyone's like, oh yeah, he's a boxer, he's like a tough guy. Do you remember a point, or was there a stage where you're like, I know that's what people say, but I don't really feel like that inside?
Probably most of my childhood, yeah,
right.
Absolutely. And like, I'll be completely honest, like I did some, as we all do growing up, I did some things that I'm not proud of, and I did some things, I would fight in moments that I shouldn't have fought because I was like insecure. I was, and I'm like, oh, I've got to be a male. People are going to find out exactly who I am, that I'm not this boxer, this tough boxer that people say that I am on the exterior. And I did things, of course, early in high school that I wasn't proud of. But I was so grateful at the age of 16, the Reach Foundation entered my life. I don't know if you've ever heard of the Reach Foundation.
Yeah, of course.
Melbourne organisation started by Jimmy Steins and Paul Curry. And they entered my life at the age of 16 at a time when I had no success in boxing and I was playing a role for most of my life. And they entered my life, and through the journey of being involved with Reach, I was able to delve into myself and understand exactly who I was and learn to love myself for the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I'm just so grateful that day happened and then all that happened after that day as well.
So who are you then deep down inside, or at the age of 16 when Reach asked you to look inside to work out who you really are? Like, what did you see when you went internal?
I know that I was just such a caring, empathetic, beautiful human that was just misunderstood. Yeah. Misunderstood by my friends, misunderstood by my teachers, misunderstood by people, but that they were misunderstood because I was showing them a wrong version. Yeah, it wasn't their fault, but I was showing them a wrong version for sure.
So when did, because I know performing arts is a big part. I mean, I don't know how many boxers there are out there who also enjoy the performing arts, and I know that was a part of your journey as well. Did that happen during school?
Yeah, so I always loved performance arts growing up. My favourite movies were High School Musical, can recite almost every word off by heart. It was funny. My brothers used to bully me so much for watching it, but then they would sit down next to me and watch it. I'm like, hold on a minute.
Yeah, you were their way in.
Yeah. And like movies like Centre Stage, Bring It On, like always was so fascinated by dancing and stuff like that. And I started ballet in 2019, but always wanted to try it prior to that. And I was just really scared to sort of tell my dad and my brothers that I wanted to do ballet growing up in the place I grew up, and finally built the courage up in 2019 and started it. But yeah, I've always been really fascinated by the beauty of art. I think Melbourne's one of the best cities for art, I think. And I didn't really tell too many people about that, but I just loved it deep down.
And did it help your boxing?
Well, massively. I think any form of dance. I've been doing uncomfortable challenges for the last 3.5 years, and I think any form of dance is such a good place, unless you're an actual professional dancer. It's such a good place for any human to go and just grow and evolve. And like the feeling before, everyone's nervous, anxious. If you can't dance, I can't dance, I'm terrible. And then the feeling you get after is just like electric. And I think any form of dance for an athlete, but for any human is so valuable.
Wow.
What's uncomfortable challenges? That sounds like it's a thing. Rather than just a phrase.
Yeah, so I've been doing the Reach Foundation and the Australian Institute of Sport Gold Medal Ready program. They were the two things that, like, if you wanted to grow as an athlete and as a person, put yourself in areas where you're uncomfortable.
Okay.
So I think often as humans, we when we're put in a situation, like you think about the world that we live in, the Western world, a lot of us are extremely comfortable.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
and we don't. If we don't have to, we won't put ourselves in uncomfortable situations. But I think the only places you grow is when the places you are uncomfortable. So 3.5 years, once a month, I do a challenge. I've done things like 50 hours no talking, which was tough for me. I bloody love to talk. Wore makeup for a day, started ballet, had some really hard conversations with my dad, 13 hours straight on a stationary bike, so many others. And each challenge I learned something new about myself, about the world. Some are harder than others, of course, but just watching my progression as a person in the last 3.5 years because of that has been massive.
Would you feel comfortable, and you don't have to, but any of the difficult conversations you had with your dad, are they? Yeah,
that was an interesting one in the sense, me and my dad from about, I don't know if it's a natural thing, but from about the age of 13, 14, anything my dad said prior to that moment, that age, like I just believed it. You know what I mean? I looked at my dad like he's a superhero, and I love that man to bits. And he's a really good man. He's a good man, but of course, he's not perfect. He's flawed just like anyone. And 13, 14, I really started to question and have my own ideas about the world and what's right, what's wrong. And I started to challenge him a lot. And probably from the age of 14 to 18, I just really felt our relationship started to really sort of deteriorate. And when I was about 19, 20, one of my first uncomfortable challenges was to try and fix the relationship with my dad. And it was never really bad to the point that we weren't talking, but my dad, was drinking for a period of time, and my brother had just come out really hardcore with a drug addiction, and he was going through his own stuff, my dad, of course, and we were arguing a lot more than usual, and I just said, I've got to try and, like, I love this man to bits, but I've just found myself not wanting to come home at times and trying to avoid talking to him or seeing him at times. And on his birthday, it was about a week before his birthday, I wrote him a card and I just said, I miss my dad. Let's go get a coffee and let's talk this out. And I gave it to him, and I just remember his bottom lip always quivers. And then we went and we spoke about whatever had been going on for us, and it was so, we both just had different ideas, almost like we were bickering about different things. So, you know what I mean? It's just like because we weren't communicating properly, and we've been so good since that. And it's just that building up the courage and to actually have the conversation with the people you love. Like, of course, they're not perfect, they're flawed, and you're not going to change them a lot of the time. But I look at my dad and I see so much good in him as well. Although, yes, he has some flawed states, but like, he's such a beautiful man, and I'm so grateful that we have a better relationship now.
Yeah, amazing. Are you comfortable chatting about your brother as well? I know there's your oldest brother. I've heard you say before that you're really quite similar to him, but you've sort of gone on very different directions.
Yeah, that's one of my, like, because I wasn't sure on what today's episode was going to be. I was meditating about a week ago, and I thought it might have been a vulnerability house. And I was like, I wonder what question I might get. And
we should have given you more
guidance for that.
It's
totally fine. But
we've got the cards.
I thought, like, for some reason it kept coming up, what is one of your biggest fears? And one of my biggest fears is that I turn into my brother after my boxing career. And he actually got out of prison yesterday.
Oh, wow.
And went to rehab. My parents picked him up yesterday and took him to rehab for the first time. So he's been in and out of jail for the last 4 or 5 years, and he's been in about 8 times. So he's just in and out, sort of going through a bit of a routine, a bit of a pattern, and he's finally built the courage up to go to rehab, which
Wow.
I'm so proud of him for doing that. And I could just imagine what he's going through, considering he got out yesterday and he was in for about 10 months. Like, he'd be going through a lot in this moment. Yeah.
Why did you say your fear is turning in or becoming that?
Yeah, I've got a massive addictive personality, very similar to him. And although, yes, I am super aware of things and I talk and I ponder and I see psychologists, I do a lot of self-growth stuff. I'm committed to growing and evolving, and I'm just super scared of who am I. I think I latch a lot of my identity to my boxing career.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you hear so many athletes when they finish sport, who are they?
Yeah.
And I think for me, mate, I'm only 24, but I'm well aware that I'm not going to be boxing when I'm 35. And who am I when boxing's not there? And what's going to give me that purpose, passion, feeling, emotion that boxing gives me? And the reality is, for most athletes, but definitely boxers, the highs are so high. And of course the lows are just as low, and it's scary to think about that, but I'm grateful I'm thinking about it at 24 and not at 30.
Definitely. I imagine, having only ever done one round in a ring against a priest,
Oh yeah, that's right.
which is one of the greatest experiences of my life, I got to say. But that's all an aside. What I wanted to say was that I imagine that boxing, more than other sports, there must be something, you're tapping into something incredibly primal when you're in there. Is there a fear that is part of the fear that you might not be able to find something that taps into that post-boxing?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I've played a lot of sport in my life, and I've obviously, as any human, we face things outside of what we do as well. Family issues, relationships, they're really challenging for me as well. But that feeling before a fight, like as you said, it's just the most primal, natural, most alive I've ever felt. Like I can see the beads of sweat dripping from my opponents. I can see almost his heart pulsating. It's because you're so alive and alert and aware and conscious in that moment, and it's quite amazing, to be honest. And of course, yes, that's a bit of an addiction. That's a bit of a high. Like, yes, athletes, we're chasing something like that. I'm super competitive as well, but and I think I haven't got kids, but I think I don't know what it's like. You guys obviously both have kids, but I think when you're a father, that would also be quite a primal and amazing feeling that could probably level, if not surpass, the feelings I get before boxing.
It's certainly very primal. There's some intense moments. I don't know if it's as intense as boxing, but it's very intense.
It's certainly very scary, and I imagine there's a bit of that. I mean, do you feel scared before fights? Is that a...
Yeah, there's so many things going through. Like, it's not so much scared of getting hurt. It's more like fear, your ego. It's your ego playing up. It's the fear of losing. It's the fear of being humiliated or embarrassed. The feeling of like not getting the outcome that you've trained so hard for. There's so many things to it. But yeah, it's not so much. I don't think many boxers are really scared of getting hurt. It's just more of like your ego getting bruised, I think. Yeah.
As someone who seems to feel things like you do, like you said before, you're deeply empathetic and you're in touch with everything that is going on in your life, I think a lot of people, especially males, without wanting to stereotype, but I just did, when something hard happens in their life, they will try not to sort of engage with it, try not to think about it too much. But for someone who clearly thinks a lot about the things that you love and the people you love, what's it like when your brother goes to jail?
I've gone through so many emotions with my relationship with my brother. Being so similar to him, I've hated him because I hate some things inside of myself, of course, or dislike some things inside myself. I've loved him. I've messaged him. I've tried to help him. I've tried to give him money. Yeah, and there's times where I felt like I was his big brother. I was trying to help him. I'm trying to, get his life back on track. And I think we have the best relationship we've had in a long time right now. And he calls me when he was in jail, probably once every 3 weeks. And he sounds better. He looks better, and I hope this is the start you're in. And I think, as I said, I've gone through so many ebbs and flows with the relationship with him. As I said, I've hated him, I've loved him, I've wanted to hurt him, he's hurt me, he's hurt my family. But I know the position I am now, I'm just here. And whatever he shows up as, and I just feel like he hasn't felt like he's had anyone there, and I just hope he knows that he's always got his family.
Amazing.
I'm kind of a bit too moved from that to ask a question on it. Maybe I hope you don't mind me sidestepping a little bit onto something else. As a teenager, I'm really interested. So there's the Reach Foundation that sort of allowed you to make the switch. But I was never, he's going to laugh here because I'm not exactly tough. I'm not a fighter or anything like that.
So Josh and I are brothers. We've never had a fight before once.
No.
Ever.
Really?
We've never.
I threw a tennis ball at your back once.
That's true. One day I threw a tennis ball at my back, and I'm still recovering from it.
That's impressive.
or it's unhealthy. We're not sure.
As in our mates really wanted to organise for us to have a wrestle, and then so people put money on.
Yeah.
But then we're like, how do we even wrestle?
I don't know. Get low is my only tactic.
I think one of my mates said how would you? We're at the pub and he goes, how would you guys fight? And Josh goes, I'd just get low. And I'm like, what? You do what? Yes, I know. Just get low.
Wow. I know. That's making me think of an uncomfortable chat because my brother-in-law loves his jiu-jitsu and is pretty good, and he really wants to have a roll with me.
I love that.
And really wants it. And he's so much bigger and stronger than me, and I'm just terrified of doing it, but I might do it as an uncomfortable challenge.
And I would like to watch that.
Yeah. But as a teenager, I was I loved playing footy, loved playing sport, but I could sing. And at the school we went to, you had to choose whether you were in the musical or whether you did sport. And I chose sport. One of the main reasons was because of how much I looked up to my brother, who was a big sportsman. And I really wanted to identify as a man, a manly man. And when I played football, I had no skill, but I was a bit bigger than other people at that time. So I could hit people that was the only thing I had. So I kind of sort of felt like, okay, I want to be this tough guy. And I can't continue the musical thing that I didn't mind the musical or two at the time either. And I always felt so conflicted. And I still feel like it's taken me to 36 to be okay with the fact that those two can coexist. This isn't a question. I just wish I knew someone like you at that age that could have shown me a role model of masculinity that isn't just one or the other. It isn't just being a tough guy. How did you navigate that process, and how did you start to fully come out is the wrong word, but come out as a musical theatre liker? You like those movies, and how did you navigate that with other men in your life?
Yeah, knowing, looking back at my life, I wasn't really aware of it when I was 16, but I felt tense. I just felt and I felt tense purely. The answer that I've given myself is because I was playing a role that I wasn't really deep down. And I think through the process of being with Reach, someone gave me an analogy pretty early from the Reach Foundation, and I totally agree with it. Often as humans, we wear a mask. And when we wear a mask, people love us. People also hate us with this mask on. And when you take the mask off, people are going to love you or hate you with the mask off. And through the process of being with Reach, I slowly took, it wasn't an instant process, but I slowly took that mask off and tried to understand myself more. And through the process of that, there was a period where I felt lonely. You start sort of pulling away naturally from people who you've grown up with, but you naturally, it takes a bit of time, but you start attracting people who accept you for the real you, or for whoever you want to be. And I think I noticed that probably early in my 20s, where I started attracting a lot more people who accepted me for whoever I wanted to show up as. And of course, I've still got friends from my childhood who I love and adore, and they've seen all facets of me from the age of 5. They've seen me be so many different things, and the people who I've still got around me from my early childhood, they're the ones who fully accept me for whoever I show up as.
Was there a point where, because I meant, so you've chosen boxing as a at 9 or something, and you're saying before it was partly, or a lot of it was to prove to yourself and others that you were tough. I find it fascinating that within that journey you had to embrace the more emotional side of yourself. Was there a point where you questioned whether you could continue to box, or was it always I can mix the two?
Yeah, I think personally, it's almost helped me more with my boxing. And I'm massive on trying my hardest. I've met some of the most beautiful people in the boxing world, and the boxing world. When a lot of people think of the boxing world, they think of, underworld, dark, sort of. There's always shifty stuff going on, and of course there is that involved. But there's also so many beautiful people, just like any industry. And I think I'm trying my best to just showcase that having a side where you're super empathetic and trying your best to plant your feet and stand tall on who you really are also really helps with your athlete side.
Yep.
Yeah, and I've definitely noticed the more that I have delved into myself, I don't think it's a coincidence that before meeting Reach, I hadn't had any success in boxing. I meet Reach. A year later, I win my first national title. I go through a breakup before the 2018 Commonwealth Games. It was one of the hardest moments of my life. My brother just come out with his addiction. And then I win the Commonwealth Games because I went internal, and I was like, who am I? And the more I ask myself, the more I delve into myself, the better I become as a person, but naturally the better I become as an athlete. And I've just noticed that. And I'm sort of like, now I'm addicted to like, all right, let's find out more about the world. Let's find out more about myself because I just get better as an athlete as well.
So you were 20 at the Commonwealth Games, is that right? 21?
20, yeah.
20, right. My gosh, an incredible. So you won gold at the Commonwealth Games. There you go. Was that on our information sheet?
I think.
I was saying before to Harry just that our producer, who we just love so much, Bridge, always writes a notes sheet on our guests. But she added a comment saying, he's so authentic and so sexy.
Thank you.
I maybe got distracted by that and missed the gold medal at Commonwealth Games. Well, congratulations for that. That's amazing.
On the sexy bit?
Oh, yeah. On both. I want to ask about your mum. So you say before you're really in touch with your mum's energy as a kid growing up. How's the relationship with your mum now? It sounds like the family's been through a hell of a lot. How's your relationship now with your mum?
Yeah, it's always, she's my rock and always has been. At about the age of 18, so 2015, I started to travel for boxing, and I spent more time away than what I did at home, probably 6-7 months away in a year, split up into month periods. Every time I was away, my mum would message me every day. Like, she's the closest one to me, has literally seen the worst sides of me, and obviously it's a parent's role in a sense. I do understand that, but never once judged me. Never once have I been scared to say, show her something, because she just never once. I've never felt judged. I've never felt like she would love me any less. And I'm so grateful that I have that relationship with my mum. And I was saying to you guys before, she just got diagnosed with breast cancer, and that's so I'm going to swear, so fucking confronting. It's so confronting. And I found out 8 days before my last fight, and it was just like that moment of like finding out is just
which is really recent. It was a few weeks ago.
Yeah, it was
a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, so she's well and truly in the first stages of it, and it's the first time I've ever personally dealt with cancer. Of course, there's people around me who are family and family friends and stuff like that, but this person is so close to me. And when I first found out, it was just so confronting. And
and how did you find out?
They called me. So I'm live in Sydney, and my parents live in Melbourne. And my mum and my dad called me, and it's like knowing we actually found out results yesterday. So it's early stages. And like seeing my mum, I've been home for 2-3 days now, and seeing how strong my mum is, like I can't not feel like positive in this situation. She is the strongest one by far, and she's honestly just took it in her stride. She's walking almost with a bit more confidence. She's walking like I'm gonna beat this, and I know she will. Like, I don't feel like anything negative is gonna happen to her. I generally don't feel that, and it's because of how strong she is. She's just taken it in her stride. She's like, I'll beat this. I'll be fine, and we'll move on. What's next?
A lot of just listening to you speak, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, I'm bringing up a young boy, like a 5-year-old at the moment. I'm just thinking how do I get my son to be like this? How do I get it? And it sounds like your mum is a huge part of it.
Yeah, both my parents are.
Yeah, of course.
And my mum is a beautiful lady, and my dad is as well, as I said, although he's very flawed, just like my mum too, but he's a beautiful man. And I think, as I was saying to you earlier, like you go through a stage, I think we're all guilty of it. We try and like challenge the people so close to us, like, hey, you're not doing this right, you're not doing this right. And I think I've just got to the point where I'm just like, yes, every human has bad in them. Of course, we all do. But I look at the most beautiful things in my parents, and I just look at them every time I see them. I don't even try and challenge them on their views about the world, what they do, something. I just look at all the beautifulness in them, because we all have that. We all have a light and a dark, and I just choose to look at their light instead of their dark.
And is that when you're boxing as well with your opponents? That interview I referenced before, where you were just saying how much respect you had for your opponent and what he's fighting for, and then he's saying, "Oh, I'm just going to kill him," and you're like, "Yeah, I really respect him a lot." Is that a similar type thing? You see the beauty in them and what they're trying to achieve and everything?
Yeah, boxing's an interesting one. Like, I feel I've delved into this in my thoughts. I'll never trash talk anyone unless they disrespect me or disrespect my family or something like that. It's a different story. Then you get personal, but I feel I respect anyone getting inside those ropes. You obviously box one round, and how vulnerable would you have felt?
No, you and I are kindred spirits.
Can relate.
Oh yeah, completely. I mean, I was boxing against a lovely man, a priest, and I got in there, and as soon as we started, I was like, I am so exposed here. In metaphorically, you're kind of naked. You're just like, you're exposed. It was, and the thing that I never understood about boxing until even just that one round is how incredibly tactical it must be, as opposed to, because I went in there and was just like, all right, I'm going to show him that I can hit hard and show him how, like, I'm not a fool. I can take this. And I realized I was wasting energy. I was doing everything wrong, and he was just like, it was all tactical. It was all in the mind, and I had no idea how much thinking goes into it.
It's like, it's genuine fast-paced chess.
Yeah.
That's how people explain it, and I honestly believe besides sex, it's the most intimate place you can be as a human. You're locked in a square. There's you and your opponent, of course, the ref, but you're trying to hurt each other, but there's no real malice in what you're doing. There's that kind of respect. I respect anyone who gets inside that ring, and it's beautiful, it's messy, and I think it just sort of symbolizes what life is as well. And I learned so much throughout the sport that I know you have a school system, and one of my life goals, well, you integrate a lot of resilience project into the school systems. One of my life goals is to get combat sport integrated into the school systems. And I understand maybe not boxing because of head trauma or striking sports like boxing, kickboxing, but imagine like judo, wrestling. I know it's big in America, wrestling. Imagine that getting integrated into the school system and having like grade 5 to year 9, year 10, like learning that. Females, males, learning about self-love, self-confidence, respect, discipline, grit, knowing what their body's capable of, what their body isn't. I think I just learned all that through the sport of boxing, and I think it would be so valuable for our younger generation.
I don't know if this would work, but it feels also like with body issues is such a big thing. I feel like being able to understand and respect your body for what it can do as opposed to what it looks like. It surely it's got to feed into that.
Yeah, you'd have a much better relationship with self. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think so too. And my partner, we've only been dating for 10 months, but I'm going to plug her business. She's got a business called Hit Like a Girl, and it's based up in Sydney, and she went through her own stuff with domestic violence with her last partner, and she felt very disempowered in that relationship and disempowered within herself, and she started the business Hit Like a Girl to empower other females to feel that pride, to learn how to, and she says the feeling she gets when she gets messages or she sees her client leaving and laughing and just sort of walking a little bit taller than how they entered, like that's so beautiful. And I think if our younger generation had just an ounce of that, it would be so good.
Yeah, that must be an interesting space to step into, falling in love with someone and then learning that they're like a past where they've been hurt in that situation. That must be pretty hard.
Yeah, absolutely. It's confronting in the sense of, like, I've never really dealt with that. My partner is 9 years older than me, so I've only ever had 2 relationships prior to meeting her, and And I was bloody hopeless at both of them. I'll tell you that right now. Just being so young and being so unaware, I think a relationship, although sport, as I mentioned before, is super vulnerable, but I think in a relationship, it's another different dimension of vulnerability. And I've really struggled prior to meeting her in relationships, and I've done a lot of work because I allow people in, and when they leave, I feel super abandoned and scared, and like I'm not shit house, but I'm not good enough. And I just think in this relationship, finding that out, I'm just trying my best to make her feel safe, to make her feel safe, make her feel like it would never ever come to that with me, and she obviously has to get through her own stuff of trusting men, and again, of course, and I understand that's a process, but we've got such a beautiful relationship, and in the sense we communicate really well, and if she ever feels not seen, not heard, unsafe, like she would always tell me, and we've never had that conversation yet, but it could potentially happen. I hope not, but it could potentially happen, and we've just set a really good boundary of just making sure we always communicate things that are going on for us, and yeah, it's confronting because, as I said, I'm a bit younger than her and just trying my best to be mature for a 24-year-old. Yeah. I try my best, but
you're doing a bloody good job.
I think you got it clocked.
Yeah, I really do. It's just amazing. Bit of a random question. Who are your heroes? Who do you look up to?
Oh, that's a good question. For me, have you ever heard of someone called Dr. Khan?
No.
Yeah, so Dr. Khan, she's a Muslim journalist, and she spent time on the front line with white supremacists in America, and in another series she did with jihadists over in the Middle East. And through the process of spending time with head white supremacists, of listening, and of course she doesn't agree with their views, but by listening, trying to understand their views, trying to understand why they are doing what they're doing, and also showing that there's more to the world than their beliefs in a respectful way. It took 2 or 3 years, but the head of I think it was KKK or white supremacists, whatever it was, she actually got them to leave just through the process of listening. And she has a great podcast with Simon Sinek, and it's a beautiful podcast. And I highly recommend anyone listen to that. It's called Extreme Optimism, if I remember correctly. And she's a big one. LeBron James, you never hear him in the news for anything bad.
No, it's so true.
Yeah,
so true.
Imagine at the age of 18, he got given millions and millions of dollars, come from humble beginnings, but you never hear him in the news for anything bad. That's someone who I respect. Jimmy Steins, of course, for the Reach Foundation. Ash Barty, the way she handles herself is beautiful.
She's incredible.
Gabor Mate, people like that, they're internationals. Gabor Mate, Esther Perel, these are people who I always listen to.
Yeah. And how does it sit with you knowing that kids around Australia, when asked that question, would answer Harry Garside? How does that feel with you? How does that sit with you knowing that you're, the way you look to LeBron James or Ash Barty, there are kids looking up to you exactly that same way, and probably two blokes in their 30s and 40s in this room as well.
It's of course there's a sense of pride and honor in that, of course, but I feel no different to those little kids. It feels like yesterday I was lining up waiting for Andrew Gaze to sign my sneakers. You mean,
I was probably in the queue as well, but as a grown man.
So I still feel like a young kid myself who was inspired by Grant Hackett in 2004 in the 1500 meter final, and 2005 Australia beating Uruguay. Mark Schwartz with those 2 amazing saves. Like, I still feel like that young kid who was inspired, and I just try my best to always, especially these young people, to just get down on their level and look them in their eyes and give them a high five, and whatever they ask for, I'll try my best to do, because it's really important, those moments, and it could really inspire them to do something amazing.
It doesn't take much, does it? Just you get
at that age.
If you get that kid at the right age, right moment, that could change everything for them. Yeah.
At the start of the interview, I said to you, I heard you say you wanted to wear a dress to the opening ceremony. The second I saw that, I think I watched over it a bit. I brushed over it a little bit at the start and just sort of said it was really great. I was so deeply moved by that. And I think about the young kids who are just not sure about who they really are. That is just so unbelievably powerful. And I want to hear more about that, about your take on, why you wanted to do that, but also sort of a bit more about your philosophy on just really being yourself.
Yeah, the biggest thing with that, because I think the things that we're so passionate about in this world, or the social issues, are often the things that are pretty close to home. And for me, I felt I played a role for the majority of my life up until the age of 16, 17. And then obviously had 2-3 years where I was challenging them and still sort of playing them at moments. And the reason as to why I wanted to wear a dress and the reason as to why I paint my nails sometimes is to showcase that if a boxer with a mullet, with tattoos, who wears TNs, who lives in Lilydale, who's a plumber, who does ballet, I'm a genuine walking contradiction. And I think every human, as I said, is on an individual level, is that a walking contradiction. We're all so different, unique, versatile, and we all don't really know who we really are because we don't give ourselves enough opportunity to really sort of delve into ourselves. And by me wearing a dress or by me doing something different, unique, I just hope a young person especially sees that and goes, like, I can do whatever I want. I can be whatever I want to be. And do something different to their family, to their friends, to their community, and do something that's more their calling. You mean I was a softie at the age of 9. I was nothing like my brothers, and then I started the sport of boxing and fell in love with the sport. I never once thought prior to age of 9 that I would have loved the sport of boxing, but I did it, and I did something that was out of my comfort zone. I did something different. And I fell in love with it and look at the person that I am now purely because of the sport of boxing and taking that risk and doing something that felt uncomfortable, felt different. And the only way you really figure out who you are is by doing that, by trying new things, or else you will never know who you really are.
Wow. What a message.
That's such a powerful
message. It's inspiring a 35-year-old man to be himself a bit more, I've got to say.
Try something different.
Yeah.
You're going to do a dance class or do one together.
I'd love to do a
dance class. In a dress as well. Yeah. That'd be really embracing the...
But one level at a time. I'll get to that. No.
That is really jumping to like the elite level of
I learned to dance. I got to make the dress look good. So I got to learn to dance first. I'm a terrible dancer.
It is making me think a lot about, though, uncomfortable challenges. Like we were talking before about how the fact that I do sprinting, there aren't too many 41-year-olds who are really into sprinting, and I train with young people, so I'm just a lot slower than them. But there's something, I feel like I've learned so much about life through putting myself in this really, I race against 20-year-olds and 21-year-olds, and I look heaps older and I'm slower, but I don't know what it is. I feel like I've learnt so much about myself by just being, every Saturday I turn up and I get really nervous. The race means nothing. It's not an Olympic stage. I get so nervous because I care so much about something that I shouldn't care about. No one's watching. There's no one's watching the race.
That's the best thing about being human, I think, though, is the fact that you have that you care about. I think there's so many people who unfortunately don't have a passion, don't have something that lights their fire inside, like running obviously does for you. Yeah.
I think we all have to everyone has to get back in touch with, I don't know, some kind of passion. I'm speaking really to adults here, but a lot of us are passionate about stuff when we're kids, and then we have families.
And we try things when you're kids.
Yeah, you try all types.
You don't really I haven't tried anything new in. I was thinking when you guys are talking, I can't remember trying anything new in a long time. I've tried being a dad, and that's about it. That was new.
Yeah, you're doing very well at that.
The biggest job of all.
yeah. But I think it gets harder as you get older. But I think it sounds like it's so important to put yourself out of your comfort zone. I'm trying to think of something. Maybe it's having a wrestle with my brother-in-law.
Oh, I thought you were going to say me. I got very nervous very quickly.
Make it happen now.
Yeah,
we've got cameras here.
Have you got any gloves? Can't we just talk?
Yeah. So, what are some examples of more sort of uncomfortable challenges?
I've got a list on my phone. I'll get it out. Get it out now.
Is that all right?
Yeah, absolutely. You can have a look at them.
Is it all right if I read through them?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, amazing. And we can edit this out if you don't want them in, but every idea every challenge has got a month attached to it, so it's already done. So chat with family member January, confront someone I had a problem with in February. March, go to the movies by myself. April, date with a girl who doesn't speak any English. May, reach Heroes Day. I'm guessing that's a day that you went and worked with Reachin. Yep. Talk with Dad, June. Month without technology, June. Ballet school, August. Japanese bathhouse by myself, September. October, karaoke, and it goes on and on. And some really incredible ones in here. I'm just scrolling through to the things you're going to do in the future. Lay down in a public place, nude beach, stand-up comedy, go to a church service or a mosque service, naked model for art, sing and create a song, rap. They really are anything you kind of think of.
Yeah, and there's a real bit, like some of them sound like, I was like, there's no way I could do that. Others I was like, oh, I can do that. I like that they're not like all the most full-on. It's not like a crazy challenge every time. It's just like there's a variation there that people could really, well, I'm inspired by it.
Yeah, I mean, I've read out probably 20 there. There are literally like 100 on there, more.
Yeah,
that you come up with.
Yeah, the reality is some, as you said, some are harder than others, and there's like, I wouldn't say that I'm completely like nothing makes me uncomfortable because there's so many things that I've still yet to do, but I'm kind of running out of ideas at times. I've been doing it for so long now that I'm like, geez, what can I do? But so if anyone listening to this has got some ideas, feel free to shoot me a message.
Your ability to vocalize what's going on inside you is incredibly admirable, and it's really rare. I rarely met anyone who can do it as well and seems to be so comfortable with just sort of putting it out there as you're working out. It's really inspiring to be around. Have you always been like that, or is that something you've honed in on in the last few years?
I've always been super curious about the world, and I think because of my parents being so different, dad being a roof tile and mum being spiritual, I think seeing that, it just made me sort of like delve into myself more and try and understand who I was. And I think a big thing is we need to stop judging people so instantly, like so instantly on maybe something they say, something that we don't agree with. I truly think the only way you ever actually change someone's opinion is by listening and understanding. You don't have to agree with them. It's just by listening and understanding and then trying to show them a different side. Not trying to force them to see a different side or saying you're wrong, you're this, you're that. And I think for me, I've just tried my best to speak honestly, understand that everything that's going on up in my brain is just a story. And when I speak them out, when I speak out things that are going on for me, I can understand them better. And I'll never be locked into one thing. You could say something right now and I'll change my opinion instantly. And I love that about myself in the sense of like, I'm always looking to grow, and I understand that's an athlete mindset, but I'm always looking to grow and listen to people's ideas. And of course, yes, I'm guilty. I'm not perfect. I judge people often, and I think that's a natural part of being a human. But if someone says something that I don't agree with, like I think about why they said that. I think about what that actually means to them. Why do they say that? Because most people, I'm optimistic about the world, and I think most people are good people. Not all people, but most people are really good people. And they could say something that you do not agree with at all. But why did they say that? There's so much conditioning that goes into why they said that. There's their life experiences, things that we don't know, but they say one thing and then we instantly label them as something. And I just don't think it's that easy. Yeah, I really don't think it's that easy. And I try my best just to, everything that's going on up here, like there could be crazy thoughts, intrinsic thoughts, so many crazy things. But when I talk them out in a conversation like this, I can actually understand what I believe. I think that's the only way you do it.
Beautiful. What do you, in a lead up to a fight, so let's say a really big one, like in fact an event like the Olympics, what do you do in your preparation which is analogous to life? Like what do you do in the lead up which which people could apply to their everyday life? What are the things you do? Obviously there's the boxing component, but sort of psychologically the things that you do that people could listen to and go, I need to do that in my everyday life for my work, for my family. Does that make sense?
Of course. I've been working with my psychologist and my life coach around like what are the things that drive me the most in my sporting career. And I think a big thing was I never felt like I was good enough when I was younger. I'd always lose. I felt different to my brothers. Many things play into it. So I'm trying to change the tone with how I treat myself, because the reality is I want to have kids in the next 3-4 years. And of course, I'm not going to be perfect when that happens, but I don't want them. I feel sometimes like I'm inferior or I'm not good enough or something. I don't want that to pass that on to my kids. Yeah. So the big push for me, of course, I want to get better and treat myself better. But a big thing is as well, I want to be a better dad when that time comes. I want to be a good person, a good dad, and I want to be a good role model.
And so these are things you'd say to the mirror basically in the morning.
Yeah. So it'd be things like, I am enough. I'm worthy of love. I am world champion, and then I am powerful, I am beautiful. So many things that I go through. So I've got a big list. I can send you a little list. But there's just like little sticky notes to remind myself. But I've been doing that consistently for a while now, and I have noticed a little shift in self. There's many other things that play into that as well, but it's a nice shift.
I heard you talk about that on the Kurt Fernley
One
1+1. And I don't know, it caught me by surprise, the worthy of love. It made me emotional when I heard you say that, because I really wasn't expecting it. It really hit me, because to see someone like yourself be honest about that, and also to think that you felt like you needed to say that to yourself. It's incredibly vulnerable.
Yeah, there's so many things that go into that, and like I've been seeing a psychologist now for a while, and I've delved into it pretty hardcore with them, and I think this is getting off topic, or not really off topic, but like my parents are two of the best people ever. You know what I mean? And for me, at the age, I think around seven or something like that, my grandparents on my dad's side, they were kind of present before that, and then they just got up and left. My family had issues with them, and at the age of 7, you don't really know what's going on. At times, you kind of blame yourself. Did I do something wrong? Or and at the age of 14, I patched the relationship up with my granddad. I went over to his house at the age of 14, and I said, I want to have a relationship with you. He's pretty old. I don't know how much longer he's going to be around. And I was seeing him for about 6 months just by myself, didn't tell any of my family. I finally built the courage up to tell my dad, that I'm talking to his dad. And I got my dad to come over. That night was like so full of emotion.
You're
at the age of
14?
14 years old. And then at the age of 18, so 4 years they were around. My granddad was around all the time. It was fantastic. I'm thinking, how good's this? Like, family's complete. It's great. It's fantastic. At the age of 18, I have no idea why. At the age of 18, he leaves a voice message just before Christmas and says, this isn't a family. I can't do this. And in that moment, I just felt so much rage. I was like, you've humiliated me. I was upset. And I was just like, I'm being 14 years old. I'm being the man of the bloody family.
Yeah.
And you've just thrown that in my face. That's what it felt like. I remember I went over to his house. He lives up the road from me. I went over to his house and I just stormed through the front door, and we got into a massive like verbal argument. Couldn't tell me why. And he couldn't tell me like if I did anything wrong and my family did anything. He couldn't tell me. He was just like saying all these weird words, and it was so frustrating. And then I left, and my dad's actually talking to him again, but that's something that I'm trying to overcome, in the sense of like, but that's the reason why I don't feel like I'm worthy of love. That's what I think it is. It's like my grandparents left, didn't know why, felt maybe it was because of me. And then I tried to patch the relationship up, didn't work out. And I think that's what it is. I think I'm searching for their approval. Yeah, that's what I think it is. Yeah.
Do you feel like there's a recurring theme here where you take on the weight of your family to fix it, it seems, from the outside? Sorry if that doesn't sum it up for you properly. Is that an accurate statement? Or like, do you feel like there's a responsibility that you have? Or
yeah, I must admit, I kind of did. When you spoke in your book, I think the first book, you felt you had to be the funny one in your family. You felt, and I must admit, I related to that in a sense. I've definitely felt that, and I'm sure my middle brother Jack, who's the most beautiful human, I'm sure he felt that at times too. Like, I think we all just want our family to be whole. We all want our family to be good. We all want our family to not have dramas. I've never really understood it. It's funny I say that though, because now I'm bickering with my granddad because of what he did to me when I was 18. So I need to take a sip of my own medicine of what I'm saying here. Absolutely. And I'm well aware of that. But yeah, I do think that's a fair statement at times. I definitely felt I've got to do something here. And you know how the most amazing feeling is when my parents call me and go, yeah, so-and-so was just down at the supermarket, and they ask, geez, how's Harry going? You know how proud that makes me? Because you know how proud they would be in that moment of like, yeah, especially with what's going on with my brother, many other things. And you know how proud that makes me when someone's asking them, how's Harry going? Because they would be so proud in that moment. Like, yeah, he's doing really well. He's doing fantastic. That's an amazing moment. And I love that. And of course, there's a bit of pressure in that for sure. But I love that because absolutely I'm making my family proud for sure.
Oh, it has just been such a joy chatting to you. I feel like I just feel like I've learnt so much, and it's just lovely to sit here and listen to someone of your age just, be on this incredible journey. You're a bloody amazing man. Thank you for joining us today.
Hey, thank you. You guys are doing amazing things. As I said, I've been a fan of this bloody podcast for a long time. Stoked to be a guest.
I just still can't go the fact you'd sent me a message going, I'd love to be in the podcast.
I'm so heartbroken. I said to my missus, like, I don't know if they want me on. That's okay. I'll keep listening.
To keep listening's amazing.
Maybe if I win gold, then maybe they'll get me. I win gold the next chance. Well, I hope you could say I hadn't seen it. Is it you could say it didn't? Like, I hadn't seen it.
Yeah. I was just like, it's been 3 weeks. He's a busy man. He's a busy man.
Well, I'm so happy we've connected, and I just feel so enriched by this conversation, so uplifted and so moved, and it's really weird. I haven't had this before, but I was sitting here thinking, I often wonder if our kids will one day listen to this podcast when they're older. So Josh has got another one due in about a month. I've got 2, another one due in about a month. And I often wonder will they listen, and I really hope our kids listen to this one day. I really do.
Me too.
I think you're amazing.
Thank you. I'll get them to do a boxing session one day.
Against their dad.
Yeah. I think my son had already beat me. He's 2, by the way.
Oh, thanks, Harry. You're just wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
What did I tell you? What did I tell you? Hey?
There's a lot of people now going, I'm also genuinely in love with Harry Garside.
It was, I've never been a fan of boxing. I've never really understood it. Not that I've even tried to understand it. It's just never been an interest. A couple of years ago, I started watching that Drive to Survive. I'd never liked Formula One. And then as soon as I started watching that Netflix show Drive to Survive, now I love Formula One.
Yeah.
Because you kind of get to know the characters and you're like, oh, they're great. And you kind of understand it from a character person point of view. And listening to Harry Garside, I'm like, I want to go to one of his fights now.
Definitely.
Like I feel like just to hear that guy talk and to talk about boxing, I mean, one thing I really found interesting was that no boxer is scared of getting hurt. Like I thought that was just from a boxing point of view.
I just wondered if that was true. Like, not that he'd be lying, but maybe that's his perception of it. Surely, I'd be so scared of getting a broken nose.
Yeah, but you're not a boxer.
Yeah, true. I'm actually the opposite of a boxer.
Yeah, I would also be scared of getting a broken nose, but I've done no training.
I just had this funny image in my head of the 3 of us in a ring and all like helmets and gloves and everything, and it's like a 3-way fight, just running around clocking each
Royal
other.
Rumble. I did love thinking about you 2 fighting though.
Oh, yeah.
Like, not that I want to see you 2 ever fight, but in a professional sense, if it was like a controlled match, God, that would be fun.
Anyway, I think we can talk about our fights later on, but we thought what we'd do for this one, because it felt a little bit like an academy. It felt to me like often with the original format, I listen to people and I think about their story. I think, gosh, it really is so much more to this person than meets the eye, and that is very much the case with Harry. But I also found myself sort of taking these mental notes of like, oh, I've learned that's really interesting, and that's interesting, and then part of me is going, he's 24. How's he able to do this? But I thought maybe if there's anything that stood out to you guys that you sort of took from it that you wanted to maybe have a go at in your own life or think about.
I mean, this isn't necessarily something that I learnt. I feel like I learnt so much, and I was just in awe of him. But if anything, the main thing I took from it was like, I think this is the model of the next generation man.
Yes.
Yeah. Like this is the next generation of what a man is, of like that men will aspire to. It feels like, you hear when you just listen to teenagers talk now, kids talk, they're so far ahead of where we were at their age. He is like, that's the next generation model man. I mean, it's a big call, but I think I feel like it is.
I really hope so.
Next generation model tough man, I would say. Like,
yeah, well, maybe that's it. Yeah,
yeah, because I reckon it's It's interesting to me that like,
Well, I think when I say that, I probably mean more like if the previous generation, like manly man, is what you're talking about,
manly man or tough man,
was like the solo man, that kind of like tough,
David Boone.
Yeah, courageous. David, exactly. And
drink 54 beers on a flight.
Yeah,
and
can do anything.
Boundaries.
Yeah.
What else do you have? A moustache. What else do you want?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Whereas this is like maybe the evolution of that in Australia, maybe. Sorry, Josh. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's so interesting that you get this example of, because he's got qualities and interests, and he can express his emotions so beautifully. And for so many men of our generations and previous, there was always this fear of being like, as you said, the solo man or the Marlboro man, or this like tough, the tough exterior, very laconic, Clint Eastwood kind of thing. And so it was like that was the only way to be tough.
Mm-hmm.
And if you showed any kind of emotion, then they were mutually exclusive models. And it feels like such a wonderful way in for people to be able to see a version of toughness that also has such a tender and emotional side that they can both coexist. And it's just so, I wish I grew up seeing that.
Yeah.
I'm just so happy for future generations of men that you can see. And also just kind of the plurality of styles of manliness these days. Like Soph was, my wife was in here before, and she sort of jokingly said the Harry Styles thing, where he's like being very...
Like the Harry Styles type of man.
Yeah. Like that's a different type of pop star to what was around 15, 20 years ago. And I think it's so fantastic that he's the example, and just that you can see so many different examples of how to be in the world as a man. It's a great thing.
And it's one thing, Harry Styles seems great, but like to see a boxer that, I mean, that seems even more powerful as far as talking to men, like that's, it's wild.
So the part of the chat that really I kept thinking about, so we did the interview yesterday. The thing I kept thinking about was when he said, someone from Reach, he couldn't remember who it was, said to him, when you have a mask on, some people will like you, some people won't. And if you don't wear a mask, meaning obviously metaphorically, like if you pretend to be someone else and try to be something that you're not, some people will like you, some people will not. If you take the mask off and you're really just yourself, some people will like you, some people will not. I've just been thinking about that a lot and thinking it's very basic. It's a very simple description, but it's so true, because I think a lot of people wear a mask because they think, more people I need to be more. But no matter who you are or how you show up in the world, some people like you, some people won't. You may as well, it's a lot more relaxing just to be yourself. And then in that way, you are more likely to find your people, the people that you should really be spending time with. And I've just thought about that a lot and thought what a lovely message that is.
It is great. Yeah. I mean, I feel like I'm just realizing that now.
Yeah.
At 40, for him to sort of be so aware and conscious of that at 24. I mean, the age thing is like impressive. It doesn't really matter. It's what he's saying is the important thing. But yeah, it's so true. It's like, but being yourself, and we got this from Max Gawn as well when a few weeks ago in his episode, that when you asked him, Hugh, I think what's the hardest thing about being a captain, and he said the same thing that when he was a rookie is being Max Gawn, and it is hard to be yourself because you spend so much of your life trying to fit in and belong and sort of like assimilate to what you think is the acceptable type of person. But to truly be yourself, it's true what Harry said, of course, that you get as many lovers and haters, whether you're yourself or someone else, so you may as well just be yourself. Everyone else is taken. But it's hard to do. It's hard to do.
Shout out to Dylan Buckley and his podcast, Dylan Friends.
It also... It's not a metaphor or a sort of thought exercise popped into my head over the last week, I think since Mac's been talking about it, and then Harry reinforced this. But I was thinking about the story you told in your podcast where you talked about how you wanted to be the winner of the funniest man in the world kind of idea. And you had a bit of a thought exercise of, all right, I'm going to go for this. And I win it, I get it, how do I feel?
You get all the praise and adulation.
Everything you wanted. Yeah. And you said it didn't do the job, like you didn't feel happy.
Well, yeah, in the thought exercise, I mean, if I was crowned that, I mean, who knows if I was told I was the funniest man in the world. But no, I think that's 100% true.
So Well, yeah, it's that I got that right. That's kind of what the thought exercise that you did.
Yeah, exactly. I imagined winning like the Emmy for greatest show, and I'm crowned as really brilliant to everyone, all that sort of stuff. And I did the thought exercise of thinking, well, if that's what I'm really aiming for, I better make sure I'm happy once I get it. And then I thought about it, and once I thought about it, I was like, I don't think I really care about winning awards. Like, it'd be nice, but it's not going to make me very happy, you know.
So I sort of have been applying that thought exercise because I think I'm only, like you guys, I'm only just learning now to just be myself. And it kind of occurred to me, I was thinking, all right, well, if I could pretend to be effectively someone else, that this ideal person, and I was able to keep that mask up all the time and everyone believed it, would I actually be happy? And I think I wouldn't be. I would feel like an imposter, and I would never be truly happy because I'd be like, well, they only like me because of the act I'm putting on.
Yeah.
And so it just occurred to me that, like, even if you're as successful as you can possibly be at holding that mask up, you're still not going to be happy at the end of the day.
Because we're using like the metaphor of taking the mask off. For me, taking the mask off, I've found myself in the last year since we've been chatting about this stuff of really being yourself, I've found myself saying a lot more often in times, I don't know, and I'm sorry, and I don't have the answer to that. And because I feel like for a lot of my life, not a lot of my life, but especially since doing the Resilience Project, a lot of people ask for advice and will want to know what I think about something, and often I will just answer a question and go, yeah, I need to know this, I need to sound smart. But I've really enjoyed just saying, I don't know, I actually don't know, or I'm sorry, I've got that wrong and you know more about this than me. I've found it comes with a lot more humility when you, and that is a nice place to come from. Feels more natural. Or
was it pretty scary when you first started saying, I don't know?
Well, it should have been, but it wasn't. It just felt great. Like it was really, I don't know. I know for so long, it's improved what I do. My work I've become so much better at my work now because I'm not claiming to have all the answers for everything. And like for years I've been traveling around Australia doing these talks, and now I've, like through my manager Beck and Live Nation, who now do my tours, like they know so much more about performance than I do. And at first I was like, no, they'll learn. I'm a bit different from, I do it this way, and I do it my own way. But I've been a lot more open to their suggestions to how to make the show better, and it's made it so much better. Whereas 2 years ago I think I would have gone, no, I'll be right. This is the Resilience Project. I know what I'm doing. But I've been very open to going, let me hear more about that. Like, I'm happy to hear your idea, even if it's something I'm really attached to. I've been very comfortable to sit back and
if like say 10 years ago, how long have you been in the talk for? Your talks, Resilience Project.
This is my 12th year of doing them.
So say like 8 years ago, if someone had have given you feedback about how you could make or how you should improve the talk or things you could tweak, how would you have responded?
Not well.
What would you have said? Like if I'd have said to you, I reckon you're going a little bit long. I reckon if you cut like half an hour out of it and get rid of this bit and maybe talk a bit more about this.
I just would have thought you don't really know. You haven't done my job, so you can't. And I still have that reaction. I had feedback the other day from someone, and I still had the thought of, I mean, it depends where it's coming from. If it's someone who's in the industry and knows a bit about stuff, I'll listen. I'm still not great at taking feedback from people who have no idea what they're talking about.
I think that's probably fair enough too. But I wonder if it's I'm just thinking myself here. But when I would have guessed that, and I don't know if this will make sense, but you would have, because of how good you are at it, so much of your identity and who you are and your value as a person would be linked into how well you can do those talks. So if someone comes along and tries to tell you could do it better, it's like they're having a go at you.
Yeah, it took me a while to separate that, definitely.
Yeah.
I think I saw it modelled to me really nicely by another guest that we've had on the podcast, and Travis Boak. And Travis is one of the best footballers in the AFL. He's probably the most beautiful man I've seen in my entire life. And we were catching up when we were first becoming friends. And I just had this, because of everything about him, I thought, he was, the way he sat when we caught up, it was a very humble, he sat in a very humble, like his body language was very humble, and he listened so much, and he was so open to everything I was talking about and asked so many questions, and he was so interested and taking everything on board. He didn't claim to know everything. And this is a guy who, for those who don't follow footy, he's age-wise, he shouldn't still be playing, but he's just getting better and better, and he's just in. And I was watching him thinking, well, if this is like one of the best footballers ever to play the game, and he's so open near the end of his career. Well, it should be, but it's not. He keeps going. Like, he's so open to people's suggestions on how he could get. Like, there's no ego there whatsoever. I remember thinking, well, I need to be more like that. Like, I don't have all the answers to the work that I do, but I feel like because no one else is not many other people are doing what I'm doing, I feel like I should claim to have all the answers to everything. And it was literally his body language and the way he listened and asked questions and everything. I want to be more like that. That's being more myself. That's taking the mask off and just going, yeah, I don't know. I'd love to get better. I'd love your help. Thank you. And I'm sorry, I don't have the answer. So yeah, I don't know if I think I've gone a bit of a tangent, but I think it's.
Well, it makes me think about. So you know Rick Rubin, the music producer, American guy, one of the most sort of like respected, acclaimed. He used to produce. He's produced so many people like Metallica, Beastie Boys.
He's someone we should get on the podcast.
Definitely get Rick Rubin on the podcast.
Shouldn't be too hard.
That'd be great. Yeah, Jay-Z. I mean, so many people. And I heard an interview with him, and he just said, and this is not his idea, but it's how he looks at life, is that he just said, we know almost nothing.
Yeah.
Like almost nothing we know. And if you and that's how he approaches life, and that's, I guess, he's so curious and interested, and he knows so much about, like, if most people were in his position and had done the amount of stuff he's done, worked with the people he's worked with, there's a good chance you could believe the hype, your own bullshit, and go like, I know what I'm doing. Like you was talking about who you used to be. And I've certainly been in the past for sure. But to come at it from that place of like, I know almost nothing. Like I know a little bit, tiny bit, but let's just say nothing. Call it even.
Yeah.
Round it down.
Round it down to nothing. Yeah.
That's what I find amazing about Harry, though, because I think at age 24, I certainly felt like deep down, I probably thought you're so lost, but I was like, no, I know everything now. I'm 24. Like, I'm a grown up. To be at the age of 24 and to be so open to everything to get better that he is. It's no wonder he's so successful, because he's so open to ways of. He's so humble.
Yeah.
When he said when he was thinking about like after his boxing career finishes, and he was thinking like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I was just thinking, you'll be right, mate.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
I think you'll be fine, Harry.
Yeah. I don't have any problems there, mate. Anyway, he's just terrific, and Harry, if you're listening, thanks so much.
Thank you, Harry.
Thanks, Harry.
Yeah, and we're at the end. The start wasn't good, and how do we finish this?
Well, you just start the music, and
I was listening to Will McMahon and
new story. Yep.
I was listening to
a new anecdote as the music starts. Yeah.
I was watching Will from Will and Woody when I was on the radio show that, and I was watching him round it out, and I was like, "That's what you do." And I've forgotten what he did, but gee, he's good at it.
Yeah,
he's good at it.
Yeah.
If he was here, he'd take us to the music. I don't know how to.
Yeah. Here's Lady Gaga with. No, it's not Lady Gaga at all. See ya.
See ya.
Hugh, it's Ryan. Hey, can you send me Harry Garside's phone number, because obviously I need to be best friends with him. But also I've been thinking, do you reckon we talk about the Versace Hotel a little bit too much at the start of the ep? I just worried that they'd be annoyed or something. So I had the idea of, like, if we write an ad for them, like a free ad, and do it on the podcast, maybe that they'll feel better about it. I've written something which I'll just read it out to you now, but we can tweak it if you want. But anyway, let me know what you think. Here we go. Are you looking for an authentic Italian luxury hotel experience like no other? Then look no further than the Gold Coast's very own Versace Hotel. At Versace, experience all the mod cons and live it up like a wealthy Italian in Italy. Or a Van Cuylenberg in Queensland. There's Versace Eggs Benedict, a Versace man who exclusively makes the Eggs Benedict, and so much more. What about the mysterious Versace pond, filled with the authentic piss of Gianni Versace himself, imported direct from Italy? And if you're game, take a dip in the pond, like the locals. Yes, if you like luxury, Eggs Benedict, and Versace, then you're gonna love your stay at the Versace Hotel on the Gold Coast. Versace. It's Italian for expensive. Anyway, so, like I said, it's just a first draft and we can tweak it. But if it gets us in their good books and, I don't know, maybe they might invite us up to stay for free or whatever. Who knows? Anyway, great to see you. Love Harry. And I'll see you soon. It's Ryan Shelton, by the way, from the podcast.
To call back, press 22. To replay message, press 1. To reply, press 2.
If this episode has been triggering for you, we strongly recommend Lifeline on 131114. The Imperfects is hosted and co-produced by Hugh Van Cuylenberg, Ryan Shelton and Josh Van Cuylenberg. This episode was produced by Bridget Northeast, edited by Andy Hall, filmed by Andy Poole and social mediated by George Martin. A special thanks to Dr. M for her expertise and guidance. We'd also like to thank the Resilience Project for their ongoing support. Our acknowledgement of country was delivered by Marley Silver, and you can find Marley's podcast, Chicks and Balls, on all the podcast platforms.
You set the tone and I'll be alright. You set the cold, I couldn't burn. Can I be a fascination?